Hit it. Oh, you got it.
Hey guys, welcome in to another live session here with 410 Sports Talk. James Haskell along with my co-host Glenn Martin. It's always weird starting out the live sessions, right? Like I'm like,
yeah.
hey guys.
How do we start?
Yeah, we're on camera now, but we're really excited about this show. Number one, because it is opening day. Shout out to the Orioles. I've seen a lot of pictures at Camden Yard. Camden Yard.
Our brother's there. I'm jealous.
Is he? Wait, which one?
Big Drunkle Bobby.
Shout out to Drunkle Bobby.
That's right.
That's awesome. It looked beautiful out there. Trey Mancini was back, which was great. But today we are here to talk about playoff contending, Super Bowl contending Baltimore Ravens, not bottom of the barrel. Sorry, Orioles fans. We're in rebuild, so it is what it is.
Yep.
We're here to talk about a playoff contending team, your Baltimore Ravens, and none other better to talk to than Jason Pruitt from DRAFTPLEX, right, Glenn?
Oh, absolutely. This is, guys, as accurate as they come. Forget Daniel Jeremiah, Mel Kiper, Todd McShay. Get them off the screen. Jason Pruitt is the best, and we welcome him to the show now. Jason, thanks for coming on with us. We really appreciate it, and really thanks for bringing your expertise to all of 410 Sports Talk Nation.
Hey, I appreciate bringing back on. That was quite the intro there. I'll try to live up to it. Had a good score last year. Let's hope to keep it rolling.
There you go. I tell you what. So I know you're a WWE guy, right?
Yeah.
And so that intro should be right up your alley, right? Glenn should just be the hype man. You just give him a mic, man.
Yeah, if I had my own podcast, we'll get you on there. We'll get some pyro going.
That's it.
Yes, sir. That's how we do it.
That's awesome. Well, we appreciate
the championship belt. I've got that.
Yes, you do. You got that.
Champion. So we're set up.
That's awesome, man. We're really excited and of course fortunate to have you on. And we know that our viewers as well are excited. So really, what we want to do tonight, guys, is everyone talks about who the Ravens should take. Everyone talks about what their needs are, and those things are widely expressed. But what we're going to do is peel back the onion a little bit, look into the DRAFTPLEX crystal ball, and we're going to say who will the Ravens take instead of just who should they take. So we're going to leave you. You're going to have to be on your toes here, Jason, because we're going to do a draft simulator.
Okay.
So it could change.
Yeah, in the war room now.
That's right, but we're gonna let you be the GM here. I'm gonna share my screen and shout out to.
Now, before we start the draft, I just want to get a couple baseline questions of where.
Oh yeah, Jason, good point. Because we're letting people hop in too.
Yeah, and so Jason, if I'll start with this, when you look at each team as specifically the Ravens, how do you identify their needs, and then I guess what are the three areas of need that you did identify?
Yeah, so that's a whole separate process for me that I really don't even start until after free agency kicks off and that's part of my process is not doing a mock draft until then, because before then it's just kind of it's almost a useless effort, because you can kind of get an idea if that's what you do full time of where these players might be picked, but it changes so much between now, from February or right after the season until after free agency, because once those dominoes start falling, you don't know exactly what the needs are going to be. So I don't actually get started with that until probably like 2 weeks after. I did a preliminary one at the beginning of March and came back to that, towards the end of March after a lot of signings took place and reevaluated it and just go team by team. You look at contracts, you look at rosters, you look at, the stats and data from the previous years of, like how the defense was, or what this particular player did and what that brings to them and where they could be looking. So we talked about it a little bit the last time. I do think the edge rusher position is still the top need, and it's a sweet spot going to be right there at the end of the first round. The other kind of ones that I've earmarked is kind of maybe you could tap into it in day one, but probably day two as you look at the offensive line, maybe the safety position. And then, there's a couple of things that would have to take place, but I do a kind of a color-coded chart on my team needs where I have a blue, and the blue, everything else is kind of color-coded according to temperature. So if it's red, it's a day one first round need. And the blue is kind of I could see them taking that guy early, or I could see them not drafting it at all based on what I view from them. So if there's a player that slips to them with the value there that you just can't pass up, then by all means, they might consider.
Is that kind of like J.K. Dobbins last year?
Yeah. So like if they, that at the time they had Mark Ingram, they had just taken Justice Hill. You look at J.K. Dobbins, well, you're like, well, maybe not. But if they have him ranked that highly on the board and he's there for them and they stick to their board, as most teams would like to do, he becomes a possibility. And so I have a couple positions there with wide receiver, even with Sammy Watkins being signed, as well as cornerback, just because there's so many moving parts involved that what looks like a lock set deal for the next 3 or 4 years may not be, especially with the way these contracts are being structured now, especially coming into this offseason where guys are signing for 4 years, but it's really a 1-year contract, and all of that money is backloaded and it's voidable and all of that. So you have to consider that going into it, and not really leave anything off the table and say it unless it's like a fullback or a punter or something like that. And if in the case of the Ravens, they don't have to look for a quarterback. Not that there necessarily would be one there at the end of the first round to take, kind of like Lamar was a few years ago. So those would probably be the top positions. But, the Ravens will look wherever they want to look. Like in my first mock draft, I gave them Christian Barmore, the defensive tackle from Alabama.
Interesting.
Might not be a common pick, but you look at their front line and all of those guys are basically over 30 and, 9-10 years in the league. So, you never know. They might try to start reloading at that position based on the value, and he's probably the one defensive tackle in this class that probably stands a chance of at least going, that high in the first round.
Okay, now what positions would you say Ravens fans should be rooting to come off the board before 27, where they're not going, this position, they're not going that. So let's see a bunch of them.
Yeah, I think really it's hard in this draft because the quarterbacks, I think, are kind of settled into. Those guys all might go in the top 6 picks. You're not really sure based on the trades that have taken place so far, but I think they all probably go in the top 10. So that's 5 right out of the gate that are going to be there. I think you're going to miss out on the top 3 receivers, but you still probably have a chance to get one of the next tier. And the other positions of linebackers, the Ravens, I think, are okay at linebackers, so they probably wouldn't look there, but there's at least 3 guys right now who stand a chance of going in that range, with Micah Parsons, with Zaven Collins, and now Jamin Davis, who just skyrocketed over the last month or so. And then you could also look at those top corners. So, if the Ravens are looking to get a pass rusher, I think they're in a good spot to do that. If they want to look at an offensive tackle, particularly a right tackle, they're in a good spot for that. Same with the center position. So I think the stars are aligning for the Ravens to kind of do what they want and really get maybe the top player at any one of those particular positions when they're coming up to pick.
That's exciting to hear.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to ask you is a lot of these folks are saying that we're going to trade out. Now in this simulator, you'll be allowed to trade. So feel free. But what do you think? What would have to happen? What will be an indicator for you? A couple picks before ours for you to be pretty confident saying the Ravens are trading out. You know what I mean? Like who has to be off the board, or what at least position groups?
I think you'd have to see a run at a particular position. And, we've talked about the pass rushers kind of not being in the range until you get into the 20s. If somehow, I'm going to be doing a new mock draft here within the next week or so, a full 7-round one. And if I could foresee a run like on the pass rushers starting in the 20s, which, you could probably maybe get, I'd say 2 or 3 legitimately off the board then, depending on what teams decide to do. That might be an indicator, because then you start dipping into like the next tier. And, we've talked about the Ravens being a best player available type organization. That might lean them in a different direction. And if the tackles are all going, which there's a possibility of that happening too, and if you have those kind of 2 things, come together and those happen, and you're left with, maybe you're looking at, the top players on the board being, a second-tier wide receiver or, a running back, which they wouldn't need. Then you might look at the defensive line. But if Barmore's not there, I don't know that you can really argue for one of those guys and really pound the table and say, this is the guy I want to take. So that, the bottom falling out scenario is definitely in play if a run happens. So I think that would probably be the case for them to look at trading out. But then, what team is going to come up trading for what? You'd probably look at a cornerback maybe. And once you get into that second tier, does Caleb Farley entice somebody if his medicals come back and they're like, his back is going to check out? maybe he's still on the board, and maybe that drops like a Greg Newsome or one of those players, depending on how teams look, and they might come up for a cornerback. I mean, usually the scenario we see is there's a quarterback who's sitting there at the back of the first round that somebody wants to jump up to get, and I just don't see it this year. I mean, there's been a lot of speculation about where Davis Mills and where Kellen Mond are going to go, and there's talk that they may even not make it out of the second round. I don't think either one of those guys slip into the first round, but you never know. There could be a surprise, and so teams value them, they value them. The quarterback's a weird, wacky position.
Yeah, I mean, I think
right?
Yeah, exactly. It only takes one sucker. I think it's crazy that Zach Wilson's a top 5 guy, but that's just me.
Yeah, that's just because he's a BYU guy. But one last question from me, Jason.
Oh, I'm not. Don't you dare call me a BYU guy.
You're the opposite of a BYU guy is what I meant to say. You are not it don't matter who's coming out. It could be LeBron of football, and you're no, he's garbage. Pick. He's garbage. So that definitely has some bias in that. But Jason, it sounds like you keep bringing up tackle. Are you operating this draft as if Orlando Brown is out the door, on his way out the door?
I think it's definitely a consideration. I mean, even if he were to stick around and they don't trade him, he's only under contract for one more year.
Yeah.
And that's a big contract. The tackle contracts, I mean, the salary cap's going to go up here shortly. But, he may already have had his fill of what he wants to do with the Ravens as an organization. If he wants to get paid like a left tackle, you're probably not going to get as much as a right tackle. And I don't know that he's necessarily established himself on the left. I hadn't done that much research into terms of how many games he's played on the left-hand side. Guys can flip. There's always that possibility, but, he may be banking on himself, and the Ravens may be looking at he did a good job for us for this first contract. Let's reload and put somebody else in there, and then you're on a cheap deal. It's kind of like the quarterback position. If guy doesn't work out, you're not going to pay him. You ship him off to Carolina like the Jets did Sam Darnold, and they're moving on to a new guy there at number 2.
Yep, got a nice little haul for him too, no doubt about it. Well, if you're ready, Jimbo, I'm ready. If you want to pull up the simulator.
Yeah, absolutely. Last question though before we do this, you talked about tackles, and I just want to get your opinion on one guy that I've really liked, and he reminds me of Marshall Yanda with his attitude. Not saying he's going to be a Hall of Famer, but Tevin Jenkins at OK State. What's your take on that guy?
He's a big, nasty dude, man. I'm telling you that much. Definitely, I think he's a first-round pick. I think most likely a right tackle. I know there's been some mocks that I've seen him where he's going to a team that needs left. I don't know that he necessarily has the feet for that. He could also come in and slip in, decide to be guard, and I think he'd do really well there, as well. So if he's on the board at 27, we're definitely going to have to look at that.
Yeah, I like it. All right. All right, so let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and make sure this works correctly. Let's see.
Okay. All right. Yeah, last time we did this, we were it was painstaking to find the guy we wanted in the 3rd round. So this should be interesting. This is I feel like I'm Ozzy when I'm doing this, and it's nerve-wracking. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. So, okay. And I'm interested to see what grade they give you, Jason. Pressure's on, man.
well, let me preface this now.
Okay.
I haven't done the simulator thing in a while, but I do submit a board for FanSpeak, and at times people would come to my board and say it was the most realistic, and it was called ruthless at one point. So I'm okay with getting their grade, because what I'll do is I'll say it's a grain of salt because it's PFF's board.
Yeah, exactly. It's not your board. That's right. Everybody's got a different board.
And when you got a clout like DRAFTPLEX, you can say that, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Again,
that's awesome.
That championship belt right in front of me. Mock draft scoring champion. I can do what I want pretty much.
That's right. All right, so we're gonna get into this. We got the Ravens pick for 4 rounds. We have it on the slowest speed here. You're allowed to make trades.
It's still really fast.
Yeah, it's still super fast. So we're gonna go ahead and hit it.
All right, let's do it. I'm excited. I'm hoping that we see the Zach Wilson and Mac Jones, because that's right now what everyone and their brother's predicting. So let's see what happens.
All right, let's do this.
I think
Trevor Lawrence.
I think Trevor Lawrence is no matter what.
Oh, look at that!
It's already. It's already throwing it.
It's Wilson and Fields.
That's the first time.
Look out with the trade. All right, it's done. Let's close the draft.
Oh, and if you ever want to trade up or down, I'll pause it and let me know, okay?
Yeah. Well,
it goes so fast you can't. I mean, right now I wouldn't even bother because it's all going out of order. So I mean, we're at the mercy of the board now.
It is, but at the same time, I think at the end, the top 10 will likely still be the top 10, just not necessarily in the
Kyle
right order.
Pitts falling to the Cowboys.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's been in the news lately.
Yeah, I have been hearing that. You think
There
there's
goes
any chance
Barmore.
he gets to 10? Does any chance Pitts gets to 10?
There's an outside chance, but man, I don't see him getting out of the top 6.
Look, the Patriots got their guy.
There you go.
Yep.
That's how he looks like a Patriot player. He just a quarterback in Patriots uniform. We'll see what happens.
Rashawn Slater at 17 to the
Yep.
Raiders. I mean, if I would have seen him there, I might have said, let's pull the trigger and see what
He's that good, huh?
He's good. He's definitely a top 10 guy, and I would put him right there with Sewell as the top offensive lineman in the draft.
Wow. Yeah, that's big praise. Jason Owe going a lot higher than we saw him last time. I'm not too sure about him.
Hey, my guy's on the board for the first time, Glenn.
Oh. Wow.
Who's your guy, Quiddy?
Quiddy's my guy, yeah.
He might be the pick, but we've got him and Jenkins there.
Oh, both your guys are there.
I
Jim.
know.
Oh.
So if you want me to look at a certain position, just let me know. If you want to keep it as the overall pick, just let me know how you want
he doesn't need to look at the at their bio. I'm sure he's pretty aware of these guys at this point. So right now, if the board was falling like this, it looks like we got some of all of your your needs here, and your top 2 definitely with Jenkins and with Kwity Paye. What would you say if you look at this board, and this is the actual board we see on draft night?
If it's me on the board, I'm taking Kwity Paye.
And you feel good that the Ravens would do the same thing?
I do feel good. One, because I have a first-round grade on Kwity Paye. So I currently only have 16 first-round grades. He's one of them. So of the past pictures, it's him and Ojulari. So Ojulari looks like he went to 23 to the Jets. Mm-hmm. Tevin Jenkins, I have a 1-2, so he's in that late first round. But as they have it on the board, a couple of these guys I don't necessarily consider as first round. They're possibilities, but I wouldn't see Walker Little going there after not playing for the last 2 years,
right?
And coming off an injury. If you wanted to look at a receiver,
what about Zaven?
Zaven's a possibility too.
Now I know you said you had a first. Did you have a first round grade on him or no?
I have a 1-2 on him just because of the position, because he's kind of one of those Swiss Army knife matchup kind of guys where he's the size of an edge and he can rush the passer, but he does so much more that he's graded as a linebacker, so by definition it's a little bit lower. But that's definitely interesting there.
I wonder if a guy like Wink Martindale falls in love with Zaven Collins. Not that he would be able to twist Eric's arm, but I wonder if that could have an impact.
Yeah, I mean, do you, as Ravens guys, do you see a lot of flexibility needed out of a linebacker edge position? I know, like, if he's coming in to play edge.
Yeah,
edge. You got to be able to cut. You got to be able to drop. You got to be able to rush the passer, and you'd like him to be able to hold up, against the run on the end. So you got to be. Typically, they like a guy 6'5", 6'6", 260 as an outside linebacker that can drop into coverage. That would be ideal. What's Kwity Paye's measurables?
Kwity Paye I have is 6'0", so 6'2", 261. He's kind of a compact type guy, and I see him I have him grade he's an edge, but I grade him as a 4-3 defensive end. So that might play into this as well, because I think Zaven Collins, with the flexibility, he would be a 3-4 outside linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
And so he offers the pass rush flexibility. You could liken him position-wise to a Tyus Bowser, who he's a stand-up rusher, that, and I know he just re-signed. So, we've got our work cut out for us.
But if you had to put if you were putting in your ticket, you would say that the Ravens would take Kwity Paye right here?
I would, because I think he's, they like the bigger guys on the outside too, right? Because you look at Pernell McPhee, who's probably 270, 280.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
They had Zadarius Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Even Matt Judon, I think, is up there 260, and then obviously Suggs. Yeah,
and Zaven Collins is not a small man at all. I mean, he's 6'5", 260 as well. So it's not like we're trying to squeak by with a 6'2", 240 guy.
Right. And now Asante Samuel Jr., he's getting a lot of hype, but you don't have a first round grade on him?
I have him as a 2, but he's in that mix of so the way I look at my board is I have my first round grades, and those are the guys I think are the absolute locks to go in the first round. my 1-2s are the guys that fill out the rest of that. And the way I look at my 2s is I have them graded there, but those are the guys if there's an outside chance that I could see them sneaking into the first round. So he's in that mix, and outside of Walker Little, and I think Dylan Radins, who I think is starting to get a little bit of first round buzz as well. But again, we talked about Walker Little already. Dylan Radins is a left tackle, but probably some teams will look at him as a guard, which I wouldn't necessarily put him on the right side because I think he's a little bit, I know it's a bad word, but he's more of a finesse player as opposed to like a driver like Tevin Jenkins.
Yeah, and we like them maulers here in Baltimore.
The hog mollies, as they say in New York.
Yeah.
Now, Jimmy, real quick, sort by wide receiver, because I know you mentioned that if there's that guy that could fall, then you could see him taking them. But if not, you could also see him not taking one at all. Is this category? Is that wide receiver for you?
Yeah. See, those are most of the names I see there. I know Tony. Like I have him as a 1-2 as well, but I would not be surprised to see him slip out of the first round just because of he has 1 year production. There's the off the field stuff, or like he may be aspiring to be a rapper. So I mean, there's a lot of those things, and so there's this is a whole big picture of who these guys are when you go to pick them,
right?
And then
Rondell Moore was the guy that had the awesome pro day, but he's real small, but
real
he's super
tiny,
explosive, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like the Ravens have enough of those. Tiny
we're
guys.
good.
They picked like 3 of them last year.
Yeah, we're all right. We're good with what we got.
All right, so let's put it in. Quiddy Pay, he's the guy. And look, if we take Quiddy Pay, got to feel good about it because nobody gets a scouting report from Michigan like the Ravens, right?
Yeah.
So we feel good.
Now let me
that.
ask you this: before I put it in, don't want to trade back? Feel good about Quiddy?
On this one, do they let you just see, or do you have to pick a specific team to trade back with?
You can see who's interested. So, like the Bills are
absolutely.
interested.
Let's trade back. Like I didn't know that was on the table. I haven't played with that much. So
we would
Buffalo?
Get So
Buffalo
we would get
30.
Yeah, so we'll give them 27, and then we'll get 30. And what other pick do you think that they would
try for 93?
No, I'd probably go with a 4th and see if they bite on it. So probably that 161.
Okay.
I wouldn't, I don't think they would trade up 2 spots and get with a 3rd. I mean, let's try it if we're asking for their pick.
Yeah, because you can always they'll decline it, and then we can go back to 161.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
There we go.
Okay. All right. Let's see what happens.
We'll see if one of those guys go here in the next 3 picks, and we may not even have to make the decision. It may just make us for us. So
Now I see Terrace Marshall went 1 pick before at 26. What are your thoughts on Terrace Marshall? Because I mean, when I saw his speed at the pro day and I see his red zone grade, I fell in love with the guy. But tell me why I'm wrong, Jason.
we can see it on your face.
I'm kind of torn. Like I see it. I see why he's a borderline first round pick. He's not a lock by any means. When I watched the tape, the highlights and the big time catches, the touchdowns and all that, it all looks good. But you know what got me? Watching him off the ball. So when the ball wasn't coming his way, he just didn't seem to put in the effort. So I don't know if he was just, I'm checked out, I'm taking a play off. But I kept seeing more and more and more of it. And then you look at kind of some of the other things. He opted out right before the Alabama game. So it wasn't like he opted out the whole year. He played enough. I don't know what the situation is there, but I just couldn't come around to it. And I did, based on just the numbers and just what other folks were saying, because I take input from other places as well. I'm like, okay, I can kind of see it. And I can see a team taking him at the end of the first round. If if somebody takes him in the top 20, I'm like, no. But you hope that as a professional, maybe some of that gets ironed out. Whoever it is, they do their homework on him as a person and a football player. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's just like I can't do it. But
okay,
I can see it. I can see it. So if he goes, to the Browns, like I don't have a problem with it. He would just be the guy where I'd like let somebody else pick him. So
gotcha. Okay, all right. So we're gonna see what's on the board at 30.
Yep. All right, so we're going to resume this here, and both Jenkins and Quiddy Pay are going to be gone.
We might lose Quiddy here to the Bills.
All right, let's see here.
Let's see. Yeah, he would Basham.
They would Boogie Basham.
Yep.
There goes Tony. Okay. Not mad about that.
One more mine.
And there's Pay.
There's Quiddy.
All right, so
That's
let's take
interesting
Kevin
because they got
Jenkins.
some expensive pass rushers in Green Bay
Yeah,
that they might be
kind of a
looking to
luxury.
replace.
Like, I would disagree with that pick because I think that's a luxury for the Packers. They've
Yeah.
got Preston Smith. They've got Zadarius Smith.
Yeah,
They just took Rashawn Gary a couple of years ago. So they're going back to that Michigan well, I guess. But, I mean, that would be another, like, Aaron Rodgers is, like, going to
Like, really? Like, really? What do I got to do to get a weapon in the first round here?
So is this a slam dunk on Jenkins, or I'm gonna open up Pandora's box again?
Zaven.
Do it.
Are you trading back again?
Let's see. So we've got Kansas City may consider Jenkins. Of course, based on this board, they might also take Walker Little. I don't know how the algorithm works with the PFF simulator.
Right.
It's already been kind of out of whack there right out of the top. So we kind
took Zach Wilson number 1.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do it. Let's see if we can just bump back with Kansas City 1 and just pick up an extra pick.
All right, Glenn, work for you?
Who's interested?
Oh, only the Falcons are interested. Now I can go to the Chiefs.
You can try and see the Chiefs.
And I can go 31 for 30.
But then we got to give up. I can't see the Chiefs giving up a whole lot to go one spot.
No, we're probably looking at like a 4th or 5th.
So like right here?
Well, yeah, try 175. I don't know that we'll actually pick it in this simulator, but if we were, I'm okay not accept it. So
they don't like that.
They're probably not wanting to give up a pick.
Now the Falcons apparently are interested.
Okay. Man, this will be trading out of the first round. I don't know if the Ravens want to trade completely out.
Yeah,
you don't think so?
And that's a little bit of a minefield if you look at like the tackle and edge position. Because I think Kansas City's probably on the hook for a tackle. Tampa Bay might look at Zaven Collins. I mean, he's classified as a linebacker on here, right? So he may slip through these other teams, but based on the way, like the Packers taking Kwity Paye, that didn't even seem like a need there. So, I mean, he might go as well. So let's stand in and pick. So do we want Tevin Jenkins or do we want Zaven Collins?
That's what it comes down to.
We had you on, Jason.
Yeah, you got to make the decision.
Then I'll make the decision, and I'll say Zaven Collins, and PFF will grade me poorly because it's a linebacker. I'm playing him at edge. We'll see and circle back on tackle in the next round and see if we've got somebody there.
All right,
fair enough. I like it. Yeah, because I agree with you. I think edge right now, unless they address it more in free agency, is their biggest area of need. So, yeah, Zaven fits the bill from an athletic standpoint. He's a instinctual guy. I mean, tell us a little more about Zaven.
Yeah, Zaven coming out of Tulsa, kind of a do-it-all guy, and he's just massive. And that's the thing is, like, he's not one of these, like, just sub 6 foot, like a Nick Bolton guy who's very popular, but I don't see him as, I see him as like kind of a mid-second round type guy. Zaven Collins, 6'5", 260. He looks like an edge. He can play that position. He can drop back, as we were talking about just a little bit earlier, play the run, forces some turnovers, which, obviously is pretty compelling for any team. Mm-hmm. But he's definitely a fit. So, I mean, a lot of teams, like the comp that I've seen that I love was Anthony Barr, who plays for the Vikings. And when he came out, teams were looking at him as like possibly like a 4-3 end and a pass rusher, and they put him at strong side linebacker, which, with the Ravens, he's probably interchangeable with any of the guys they have, but he definitely has a lot of potential to come in and be that dominant, kind of edge player, whether he's a 10-sack pass rusher. I don't know if that's the case, but you could see him developing in that way where he's just an impact player regardless of what they position him to do. You pair him up with somebody like Patrick Queen, you've got that dominant front line. I think that would be a really good pick for the Ravens.
Nice. Yeah, that would excite me. There's no doubt about that. All right, Jimbo, what's going on?
You ready for this?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Right.
See what happens. Okay. Because I'm excited because look, first round's one thing, Jason, but we brought you in for the deeper rounds, okay?
That's right.
I think, we could predict the first round pick, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
We get a little shaky after that, you know what I mean?
All right, let's see. Let's go to the board.
Rondell Moore.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
That would be crazy. Put him in that.
And there goes
City
Jenkins.
Offense.
Jenkins to the Bucks. I know they just paid Donovan Smith. They just drafted Tristan Wirfs last year. I guess if they want to play him at guard, that's a possibility. But based on the way these simulators work, sometimes they stick very hard to what the position the guy is listed at, so they don't really flex him to a different place. So
Glenn,
Yeah.
between you and I and myself personally, I've done 6 of these now, and every single time the Dolphins have taken this tight end out of Penn State.
That is crazy to pair him next to
Every single
Gesicki.
time.
Yeah, well, I
Man.
mean, look, he came from New England. Brian Flores did, so he likes them 2 tight end sets. I
Yeah,
guess.
they have a ton of tight ends. Like I've mocked them, Kyle Pitts, but he's a different kind of cat, man. And Freiermuth is a good player, but he's kind of like a couple of guys they already have there with Durham Smythe, and I forget who the other one is.
Gesicki.
Gesicki's more of just a pass, like he's like a big wide receiver.
Yeah.
And Freiermuth, like his nickname was Baby Gronk, and I don't think he actually lived up to that, but he's like the big kind of bulky tight end that gets out there. Probably more like a Kyle Rudolph, I would say, than Gronk, because Gronk's just a different animal in more ways than one. So
yeah, there goes Najee Harris.
Oh yeah, I like him, man. But that would be interesting. They already have
Josh Jacobs.
Jacobs,
another Alabama running back.
That's a perfect Raiders pick, though, right?
Yeah, I saw a mock that I really liked in the first round, and you guys probably would be like, "What?" And it was the Raiders taking Jason Oweh.
Oh wow!
17.
Yeah, now that is a perfect. That is a Raiders
but I was
pick.
like, that would totally be a Raiders pick because the guy tested off the charts. He's gigantic, and he has no production. Last year.
That's why I saw him mocked to the Ravens. There's no way they take a guy with no production. They just don't do that.
I considered it just for a second, but I was like, they wouldn't pick him because he didn't produce in the last year. And they're not a height, weight, speed type team. Like they pick football players who are established as football players and not projects in the first round. So,
all right, now I'm excited about this, and I'm really excited to get your take on these guys because I see at 52 Creed Humphrey goes. Now I watched Creed and I watched Landon Dickerson, and I also noticed I peruse your website here at DRAFTPLEX just so everybody knows and go check it out. And I see that you only had a first round grade, or the highest grade you had was on Landon Dickerson, not on Creed Humphrey. Yeah. Tell us why.
So I moved Landon Dickerson up because he's just a beast in the middle. And that he's coming off the ACL injury, but he's back there doing flips and cartwheels behind Mac Jones at the pro day. And I'm like, he's probably all right. He'll probably be okay. I mean, there's an injury history there. So I think a team would have to be comfortable with the medicals to take him in the first round, but he's definitely a first round player. And I think Creed Humphrey's kind of had an up and down career. I think he was really highly looked at like as a freshman and a sophomore, and then kind of tailed off a little bit. And then he kind of made it, a comeback of it this year. But, that it's a weird thing too, but he's also a left-handed center. So he snaps the ball left-handed. So it's like one of those other things you have to consider, because it's just that, if you get used to a guy, the ball spins a different way coming out, and he snaps a different way. So that's just one of those other things. But Creed Humphrey, I think my last board, I had them both as 1-2, just because I had Landon Dickerson down just because of the injury. But I haven't seen anything where it's like he's having a problem recovering from that. It's just if you have to be comfortable with the injury history, where it's like every year he had something. It was one ACL, then the other ACL, and it's this, that, and the other thing through his entire college career. So you have to be comfortable with that. And at the second round, sign me up. Like that's getting into that, the special round. These guys can get on clearance for injuries, and you'll take them. And the guys that were injured in college don't always turn out that way in the pros. And the same thing is the guys who were never hurt in college can get hurt all the time in the pros.
Good point. Yeah,
it's just a different kind of way of preparing yourself and getting your body ready to play. And we talked about this, I think, before with the lottery ticket type thing on the quarterback. And I think the second round, if you see a guy slip that far, by all means, if you're okay with it, then pull the trigger.
Now, what about the kid out of Wisconsin, Whitewater, that's been soaring up the board? Quinn, I don't even know how to say his last name. Miners.
Yeah,
fair enough. What's your take? What's your take on him? And because they had him, here in PFF, they had Creed. Let's see, they had Creed as an overall prospect ranked third, if I'm not mistaken. Quinn was second, and then Landon was first. So he was ranked above Creed in a lot of rankings. What's your take on him?
Mm-hmm.
Small school, Wisconsin Whitewater. He didn't play this past year. He did, basically the Rocky workout. If you've seen some of the videos, he's like pushing trucks and hauling logs and doing all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy looks like a barbarian. He comes to the Senior Bowl. He's got the half shirt with the full belly out. He's got the kind of dreaded hair and everything. So he looks like what is this guy? But he came in and he showed out, man. Like the Senior Bowl is no joke when these guys come there. There's battles taking place on the field, and he not only hung in there, like he was showing up against guys that are in that first, second round range, and I think that rocked him up the board quite a bit. Now, where we're picking at, in the second round, he's an outside possibility. I could see a team liking him that closely, but as a somebody evaluating, if I see him and Landon Dickerson, I'm probably taking Landon Dickerson just because of the experience and the size,
competition and things,
and the competition and everything. So, if a team took Quinn Miners in the second round, I don't fault them at all for doing it. If we were, towards the, kind of right on that fringe of second and third round, I'd definitely take him.
Here, let's pull the board back up.
Yeah, I'm having some technical difficulties here.
I see your video is quite a bit behind. At least on my screen, your video is quite a bit behind, but that's okay. We can still hear you just fine. So right now we got Landon, we got Jabril Cox, who I don't think is necessarily a need here. Now you did mention safety as the third need. Is there a guy now? When I think about safety and what's needed in Baltimore, it's not a box guy. We got that kind of guy. We need that center fielder type. Is there a center fielder type right now that you see on the board?
Oh, I like Jamar Johnson, man. I do. I know people have just come around to him in the last month or so, but he was like the first safety that I watched. I was like, whoa, why am I not hearing about this guy? And I came right out of the gate. He was my number 3 safety behind Merrick of TCU, and then Richie Grant, who showed out at the Senior Bowl. And I was like, Jamar Johnson, man, this guy's he's kind of the whole package. And I know, you dig a little bit further, and I've now got him at number 4 because I changed Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah to a safety, because when I first turned the tape on him, I was like, that's a safety. That's not a linebacker. But he's kind of that new age kind of hybrid where you do a little bit of both, another Swiss Army type, like a Isaiah Simmons or Jeremy Chin, Kyle Duggar type player. But man,
he plays a little slot too, right, Jamar?
Yeah. So Jamar, he's pretty flexible there. If we didn't need a center,
I think we ended up taking him. Did we not, Jimmy? In our
we did.
We took Jamar Johnson.
Yep.
Yeah, we took him.
We sure did.
I'm not sure if we took him in the second. I think we took him in the third round. Yeah, we got him in the.
We did. We got him in the
second
third.
or third. So for right now, right here, if you were picking, if you saw the Ravens picking, you would expect them to go Landon.
I would expect him to, but let's change the position to tackle. I see Eichenberg there, but he's kind of a left tackle.
Okay. Let's see what we got.
Another Notre Dame guy like Ronnie Stanley.
Oh, sorry. Give me 1 second here. All right, let's go to tackle. Oh, geez. All right.
I just want to see what their board stacks up like, because there may be one that I may be higher on than see, that's probably about right. I mean, Eichenberg, I think, is more of a high second round type player. Mayfield was kind of in that first round conversation, but he's kind of right tackle by trade, and he doesn't really have the link, so he may slip into guard. And these other guys are more kind of developmental, like left tackle type prospects. So, I think we're off the board on tackle for right now. We may circle back to that for the third round.
All right. So, that's where we got Orlando Brown, folks. Don't forget.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So we're going Landon Dickerson with the pick.
Yeah, let's go Landon Dickerson.
All right, let's do this.
I like it. I would not be mad to finally have a true center and not an undrafted guy who we're hoping to turn into one here in Baltimore. All right, let's see. There goes that tackle you were just mentioning right off the board. Now, that'd be interesting because they got 2 pretty good tackles, including one they just drafted
and there goes
last
Quinn.
year, and they paid the other one. There goes Quinn. Yeah, I liked him. He did an interview on NFL Network. He seems like a fun guy.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
So our next pick is going to be 93. We got a minute. We can rest and recoup.
Well, you could hit the speed at the top left there and speed it up a little bit if you want and get us there a little quicker.
Yeah, once it gets to here, I don't think anybody's too keen on trading. There isn't much to offer in the value in terms of the pick board. So
it's speeding up now.
There it goes. Now we're cooking. Chaz Surratt, the Surratt brothers, man, that's a pretty cool story, right? Both coming out the same year.
Yeah, that's cool. They're not really for me, either one of them.
Now look, our guy's still there. He's dropped. The guy you said you like.
Look, if we needed a linebacker and Jamin Davis is sitting there, all day. Turn the card in. That's
Really?
a first round player.
Really?
Third round. I think you have to take a little bit of creative license with these things if you don't agree with the board, which I don't.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And I would think a lot of people now, like he could be a top 20 pick, and now he's sitting here at 63. And I don't know how they, base some of their ratings on. I would be okay third round wise with, I think, most of these guys here, but that one's a big outlier for me.
So what do you think the Ravens are more likely to do? Would they take the safety? Because this is where it gets tricky for you, man. So would the Ravens go in after they have a larger perceived need at safety, and Jamar Johnson, there's value there. But just like you said, with the linebacker coming out of Kentucky, if he's a first round grade, even though there might be some redundancy, which way do you predict them going?
I would, for the purposes of what we're doing, I would take the safety because I think he'll go in that round. I don't think we have a chance at Jamin Davis. But slip down a little bit just to see who else is kind of below the fold there. You got some smaller wide receivers. Kelvin Joseph, if you want a corner, that's a guy to pick because I think he's kind of in that, late first, early second round range.
Now, I would think the Ravens would be looking at a guy who can play the slot with Tavon Young's injury history. Is he that type?
I think he's an outside corner, so that's some good insight there. We probably wouldn't look at him then if we're okay with what we have on the outside. From there, again, some of these guys are, it's a little bit of a mix of like Wild Goose. I don't even know if he's going to be drafted, and he's a top 100 player on this board.
Well, he wins the competition for best last name.
Yeah, I like the name.
There's some good names in this class. Divine Diablo is another one. Like that may be
nice.
That might be the best name in this class.
Now, I thought his name was Jammin, so I'm a little disappointed to hear you say Jamin.
I think I have to go back to my pronunciation guide, which I'll throw in a plug for Dane Brugler's Beast, which is his draft guide, which that's probably the reason why I would never do a draft guide because he just does it so well and has been doing it for so long. The information in there is just insane. So I'll have to look and see how he actually pronounced it, but I do think it's Jamin.
Okay. All right. Well, it's still better than Glenn, which is my name.
With two ends. It's exotic.
Yeah, real exotic. All right. So right now, do you want to look at tackle to see what's there, or do you think what are you feeling right now?
Man, I didn't see a tackle in that kind of stack of what we were looking at. It was mostly kind of the smaller wide receivers. We can look at it.
Yeah, give it a sort, Jimbo. We could sort it by a few positions if you
All right, give me a second here.
Let's look at tackle. Otherwise, safety is the need that I have lined up. That's still in this range where I'd be like, absolutely.
Yeah, I like seeing him there though. I like seeing a guy with some versatility. Now, how's he in the center field as far,
I think he's a center field type, yeah.
Okay. No, I was just, okay, so you can see the screen. All right, it was just a little behind. Perfect. All right. Yeah, what's your take on Christensen?
Christensen is good. I kind of have him in that 10 to 12 on my tackle ratings. Older guy, little short-armed, but I think he's really athletic too. And so when I watched him, I didn't see the length being a problem. So I expect him to go top 100. He's probably a top 75 type guy.
So he served a mission, so he's a little bit long in the tooth.
I mean, as James knows, all those BYU guys, they're all older gentlemen. They're they're mature in their ways and in their age. So he's coming in as being a little bit older guy, and that's just a minor knock against him. At tackle, it's not really something you have to worry about. It's not like you're picking a 25-year-old running back.
That's true.
Right.
That's a good point. Yeah. Right. All right. So it sounds like we're going to go safety here.
Lamar all day.
And I'm excited. Yeah, I think I think Wink would be really happy to get a guy like this in there, and it might actually spell the end of Deshaun Elliott. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if they will. They just extend Chuck Clark. Now you're bringing in another guy here. I think that could spell the end for the Joker. And we're fans of the Joker. But
big time.
But I do think we need some center field ability here. So all right, cool. So we see
now
some
we're back on the board.
Well, another guy gets a little bit of a mix.
Hey, your guy.
I like Trey Sermon. Let me just say this: Trey Sermon. I don't know what it is about that guy, but he just seemed to play big in big moments, and it's like you can't point to him like he's this, but he just breaks tackles and he just seems to have good vision. What do you like about Trey Sermon?
Yeah, I think he's a feature back. I think if he can keep stay healthy. I know the tape coming in, he was kind of quiet for most of the years, but I mean, you don't put 350 yards on in a was a conference champion
playoff, yeah,
and then do it again in the playoff. And I think it hurt them to not have him in the national championship game after he got hurt like early in that game.
Now your guy's still on the board here.
I'm like, what are y'all doing? Come on.
How is Jamin Davis still? Oh my goodness gracious!
Are you running up to the board? Are you running up to the board if you're the Ravens, even though there's redundancy here?
Is this a gas mask situation? Are we simulating?
Is this a draft night?
Yeah, is this draft night like nightmare scenario for the guys just sitting there, and he's just like, what happened to me? What did he do off the field to warrant this position on the board?
Right.
Yeah, the disrespect is strong to Jamin right now. Well, let me ask you this: is there sort by wide receiver for me, Jimbo? I just want to see, because they hired some pretty big name coaches to coach the wide receiver position. One of which, Keith Williams, is talked about in very high regard to all receivers around the league. And that tells me that they might be willing to take a guy who's more of a height, weight, speed guy, but more raw and needs some work in his route running. Is there any guys you see right here that kind of fit that bill?
Palmer is kind of a height, weight, speed guy, and he's kind of come on over the draft process. He was at the Senior Bowl. And a lot of people point to him not having good quarterback play. It's not his production wasn't what you would expect, but he's a fringe top 100 guy. So, I mean, this is probably the right range for him. Cade Johnson is more of a slot receiver, a little bit small school, but man, he showed out at the Senior Bowl too. Jalen Darden, that's a little rich for him. He's kind of the tiny dart that you send down the field. Mm-hmm. And, a lot of these receivers, I mean, Nico Collins is a guy that I could see being, we were talking about Michigan earlier with Kwity Paye. Nico Collins is 6'4", 215. And I think he had like a 4, everybody had a 4.3 over the pro.
Yeah, it seemed like it.
But I think he was kind of in that range where he ran a little bit faster than you expected. So he's the same thing at Michigan. The quarterback play wasn't there. But, I mean, if you were looking for a height, weight, speed guy here, that would be the guy. But right below that, Amari Rodgers from Clemson.
Yeah.
He's kind of a Steve Smith type dude. Like, he's muscled up. He looks like a running back as a receiver.
Well, and his dad is now on the staff.
So you have to connect those dots too. And I would think he would be in somebody's ear. Like, let's take him here.
Man, that would be. Now, what I see Seth Williams put on a couple highlights, but you don't seem too high on him.
Yeah, I was at first, and then I started hearing some different things about, his effort overall this year. I have limited time to watch tape, trying to watch all of these guys. And I think athletically, he's definitely like a 2-3 type player. Mm-hmm. But there was enough, chatter that I heard that I was just like, yeah, he probably, if you base things on how the league is going to look at things like that, he's probably a day 3 type player now.
Okay.
And then the other thing I would look at right now is, since we're going further down, and Amari Rodgers is on the board at 154, I wouldn't touch him right now because I'd just come back around later because he's still going to be there.
Right.
So I think one of the ways you approach these simulators is you take whoever's at the top, and if you find a guy, that's how you end up with these drafts being shared on Twitter, where it's like, oh, I got all these guys, and it used to irk me so bad, and it's why I started building my own board for FanSpeak, and that was kind of the pre-DRAFTPLEX era. And I was like, I can't do this thing where I'm getting this, unrealistic draft based on these boards I'm having to use. So I'm going to use my own. And that kind of led me down the path. But that's the way you get around that. And people, the guys that don't study this, just the casual fan, they're looking at like, how is this draft? And everybody's like, it would be awesome, but it's not believable at all.
Right. Well, so when you think about the needs, look, we could take Jamin Davis for a good draft grade, but it doesn't sound like you have any thought that he's even possibly going to be there in the 3rd round. No. So let's pretend he's off the board. Let's pretend that he's gone. What would you be looking at? Now, we can sort by multiple positions. Doesn't have to be just one at a time. We could bring tackle, wide out, safe. We could bring all of them in. Right. What would you be looking at right here?
There's a couple of guys just look at. We talked about, Davis, obviously. Kendrick Green is kind of an athletic guard, center type, but we took, the big bulky, bruiser of a center with Landon Collins, or not Landon Collins, Landon Dickerson. Speaking of another Alabama guy, Landon Collins.
Right.
But a couple of guys there that we haven't talked about yet was Milton Williams, who's a defensive lineman out of Louisiana Tech. the alma mater of your guy Jalen Ferguson.
Oh, geez. And so we've had two bad picks there. And didn't we take Dixon out of La Tech too?
I'm not sure. Oh yeah, the running back, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I remember him.
What's his name? I'm blanking.
Kenneth
Dixon. That's it. Yep.
I've never seen anyone with chew in their mouth during a post-game interview except Kenny Dixon. Man.
So yeah, if there's a little bit of a pipeline there, but going based off of that information, we may shy away from that. I like Ozdiki-Zua a lot, but when he got measured, he was really small. He's like a 6'1", 280 type guy. I mean, you could, but he's an inside guy. I think that kind of limits him to maybe like a 3 technique.
Now we talked.
Just have Metabike and Broderick Washington brought in last year.
Yeah, so I don't, I think you've got those 2 guys on the inside.
Yeah.
As I mentioned before, I kind of looked at Barmore there in the first round for my initial mock, just based on, there's enough guys there that you can reload, and the value was just so high. If you wanted to go with more of a, man, it's hard because I look at these guys and I'm like, yeah, I think Palmer could be a guy to consider there if we want the kind of a guy that could have number 1 potential. I'm not going to say he's ever going to get there, but he would be a guy to look at. I would really have a hard time not picking Kelvin Joseph here, though, the cornerback. And I know you were talking about a slot corner, but I mean, you can never have too many cornerbacks. And I think he's a dude, and I think he can play. So if I were to get him here, outside of the top 100, excluding Jamin Davis, because Kelvin Joseph actually does have off-field stuff where he could slip this far.
Oh, right. Gotcha. So this is realistic simulator as well, because but so they got Marlon Humphrey, they got Marcus Peters.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the old saying, you can't have enough of them, but they also have Jimmy Smith behind them, and behind them
Anthony
too. And
Averett.
They still have Anthony Averett, who I think came on strong at the end of last season.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, when you get to this point, the Ravens like to say it's the best player available, highest guy on our board. Is like, I think that they take a little bit more liberty in the first and second round, certainly looking at their needs. I mean, when you look at their past few needs, it wasn't hard to predict where they'd go. But definitely in the third round, I would not be surprised to see them go with a cornerback here, despite on the outside looking in, it's likely their strongest position.
Yeah, and I think, again, I hate to critique the simulator here, but this is where the board comes into play, because different players would be available here that we'd probably have a better gauge on who to pick. And what's throwing this off is they have these guys rated a lot lower, but some of them are not. Like Tay Gowan, they've been on him all year, and I just moved him up to like a 4.6. Because he's kind of a lean guy, but I had him, like, when I first watched him, I was like, he's about as skinny as you're going to see for a cornerback. And they've been on him as like a top 5, top 6 corner based on his grades, but I just didn't see it. But then I started, again, seeing more tape and seeing more. I'm like, well, the physicals don't wow you, but, maybe somebody takes him, but I don't see him going in the top 100. Kelvin Joseph, certainly I do. And they have it ranked at 85, which I think if a team is not comfortable with, if the league kind of is just, like we were talking about, like I will let somebody else pick him, he could see himself fall that far just based on the off field. He initially went to LSU. He's another guy who didn't finish the season at Kentucky, even though he showed out. Like the game that people point to is the Alabama game. They got blown out, but I mean, he played up against, Devontae Smith, and actually got a pick off of a route that he ran towards the end zone. So I mean, there's something to like there, definitely. I don't know how deep the Ravens are in terms of character guys, but if he were on the board, so let's
if there's any domestic violence issues, that's a big ticket.
Yeah, I don't think that is. I think he's more, like maybe some maturity issues, maybe a off field, because I think he's another aspiring rapper.
Okay. All right.
There's just kind of that always kind of thing. Well, how much does he love football? Does he want to be a football player? Or does he want to play football? So that's the argument you kind of have. So like for argument's sake, let's also slice him off the board. So let's go back and look. And I think we'll.
So I just want to make one more plug here. I'm not a BYU guy, but we might need a tackle. Christensen. This is outside of the top 100.
Yeah, sort by tackle, cornerback.
Yeah, so
And-
I'll show you here in a
Okay.
second. But so right now, as it stands, he's the top rated remaining tackle
It's
on the board.
Christensen?
Yeah.
I mean, that need could present itself as a much higher need even tomorrow if Orlando Brown is moved. So
Yeah.
I would not be.
So this is what I'm
going to
do. I'm gonna add tackle.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it behaves for me, yeah, okay. So he's the let's see if we can add as well safety.
Okay.
Well, we got our safety with.
Oh yeah, we got our safety.
Oh yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
Well, they're in there anyway. Any other position?
No, that's kind of what I had. You know, the offensive line. We talked about the D line a little bit, but I think based on what's there, I mean, Christensen would be a solid pick. I mean, at worst, he could be a swing tackle.
Do you like any of the other tackles better than him?
Who they have listed?
Yeah.
No, I have Christensen rated higher. Like Deontay Smith, who was the other one, Spencer Brown. Spencer Brown, more of the athletic. You know, he's 6'8" and I think like 320 or something. So he's a big, tall guy.
Robert
he might
Hainsey.
be a right tackle. I mean, I don't know that, Ronnie Stanley's more of the athletic type. I don't know if they want to book in with players like that, or if, that could come in helpful when you got a lot of, fast guys moving around in your backfield.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so you would expect Brady Christensen? Is he
and
on
he's
the
a
card?
character guy as well, so certainly they're gonna look at that and like.
Yeah, they like nice guys. They look good guys.
Yeah, I think Brady Christensen's a solid pick right here. I have him in that kind of same range, kind of the late.
All right,
third round, but yeah, that's a good
taking
pick.
Brady.
So we got an edge. So we're going all trenches this draft. All trenches. Got a center, an edge, and a tackle in the first three, and we got one pick left. A pick that we got. We manufactured this one, so this is a bonus pick.
Here we go.
If your boy from Kentucky's still there,
no, I saw him go a few picks earlier.
Okay. Oh, there goes Josh Palmer too. Okay.
Yeah, right before.
And,
all right, who do we got left? They just took Kendrick Green, who was still there. Now, again, Milton Williams, like at this point, the value's too high. So unless you guys, okay. Now let's. I'm seeing a name there that I like.
He saw someone,
and this is the pick. If you guys will confirm to me, we talked about a tight end.
Yeah.
The last time I was on, Tommy Trimble's a dude that I think is going to go in the second or third round. It's not out of the realm of possibility that he's there, at this rank of 105. At 130, I don't think it's out of there, but
he's a mauler, right?
He's the dude that'll come in and just bulldoze guys, on running plays. He's probably a developmental pass catcher, but if you need a guy to lead block for Lamar Jackson, I'm running behind that guy.
now I don't have a problem with it. I've looked into him. Sounds like he would be a fit here, but we do have Nick Boyle, who's maybe the best blocking tight end, and we do have Project Pat Ricard at fullback, who is a two-time Pro Bowler now, and he's about a 310-pound fullback. So I don't know. I mean, what do you think, Jimbo? Do you think they would go Tommy Tremble here?
I think they would. I think Jason. I think your first instinct was right. I think they run to the board with Milton Williams, the interior defensive lineman, based on the aging guys up front, and we're always drafting those guys. I mean, we never stop. Right? That's just how it works around here. So I think your first instinct was right.
Yeah, the value here is just too much because I have Milton Williams as a second-round guy also. And I think he's kind of ranked in that range, but the way the board is played out, it's 75, should be there at 131. Possible, it's still a small school type guy. The traits are off the charts. The production is there. Could we see him fall to the end of what is this, the middle to the end of the fourth round?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not, but I mean, he's at the top of the board, so let's boost our PFF simulator grade.
All right, let's take him.
Yeah, I wouldn't be mad about that. I mean, look, Brandon Williams, there's no question. I mean, how old is Calais now? 35? I mean, there's no telling how much football they really have left. I mean, they've both been relatively healthy guys throughout their career. So, I mean, I wouldn't be stunned to see him play all 16, but at the same time, I wouldn't be stunned to see the other way as well. Okay. All right. Not a bad draft here.
Yeah.
They didn't like our Landon Dickerson pick, but that's okay. I don't see him being there at 58, so I would bump that up a full letter grade. So B+ is good. I mean, we had to improvise a little bit with Brady Christensen, Milton Williams. If I'm grading this draft, it's an A+ because I like all of these guys. Maybe it's maybe we had a need that we didn't address. I think I saw wide receiver, so maybe if we picked a wide receiver, it would have bumped up, one of these slots. But B+ is not bad for a simulator grade.
Yeah, I'm not mad about that. Now, let me ask you about some of these wide receivers because I know a lot of guys want us to go receiver. They're tired of us not having that number one. And just the fact that the Ravens have never drafted a Pro Bowler or a guy who's even gotten to 1,200 yards in a season is kind of a stain in their record book. What do you look if obviously Jamar Chase, he's going to be gone. Devontae Smith, he's going to be gone. But who do you see that could realistically get to 27 that would still be worth it being picked there?
I think the Ravens miss out on the top 3 guys, and we'll throw Kyle Pitts in there too. He's not getting to 27,
right?
But the guys you probably are looking at, Kadarius Toney, who is kind of the I want to put this. He's not a gadget guy, but he's a developmental wide receiver. He has one year of production, and he is not like a defined route runner. He was kind of just that gadget guy at Florida until this year he kind of became the go-to target, but he's a really electric playmaker. So he could probably be there. Rashad Bateman, who I found this incredibly funny that somebody tweeted out like Rashad Bateman has been shrinking ever since high school. In high school he was 6'3" and 190, and then Minnesota listed him at 6'2", 210, and then his pro day he was 6 foot, basically 6 foot flat and 190. So
yeah,
it's kind of weird.
That's what scared me away from him.
Yeah, and he didn't perform as well this year. I know I've heard some things about he could have been a top 15 pick or something based on his 2019 production. I didn't see it as much because I don't think he's as explosive as some of these other guys. So that's why I bumped him down to more of a, kind of a fringe first round if a team likes him. But that size thing really did stick with me because I was like, well, he's a bigger receiver, but he's kind of average size now.
Yeah.
And then the other guy is probably Terrace Marshall, which we talked about earlier. He's kind of a height, weight, speed guy. And if you're comfortable with, maybe teams do a little dig a little bit deeper than what I did on my tape study. But I looked at him. I was like, well, the off the ball stuff is not that exciting. And then the football character with the opt out, I don't know what there more is to that other than, maybe he just felt like he didn't want to play anymore. If he thought he was going to get hurt, I'm not sure. But maybe he thought he did enough to solidify his draft stock. And then he came and had the nice pro day. So he's there. And I think on the outside, as far as the Ravens are concerned, the next bunch of guys, I don't really see it for them because they are those smaller slot speed type guys with, Rondale Moore, the tiny 5'7", 180, kind of who was the guy a few years ago with the Bucks who they called him the muscle hamster?
Oh yeah, who was it?
He was out of Boise State. Doug
Martin.
Doug Martin, that's it. Yep.
Sorry about the technical difficulties there.
No, you're good. And then you have Elijah Moore at Ole Miss, who's kind of, again, like a slot type guy. Dwayne Eskridge maybe a little bit further down and kind of a deep threat, but again, smaller, probably playing out of the slot. None of these guys are going to be kind of your go-to alpha number one target unless you're running a short passing game, which the Ravens may. I don't know how much they do in the deep ball. I don't get to watch.
I'd like them to do a little bit more. I tell you that. Air it out a little bit more, back them guys off.
Yeah,
but what about Dynami Brown? I mean, a lot of people are talking about him rising up.
He's got a pretty cool name too. Makes me think of Dynamite, right?
Yeah, I like him a lot. He's also another deep threat, but he's a little bit bigger. He's a 6 foot 190 guy also. But when I watched it, I was like, man, this guy gets open, and he gets open down the field. I would have liked him to be a little bit bigger. I'm not, for some reason, I thought he was kind of in that same range like a Rashad Bateman, as list of being like a 6'2", 205, 210 type guy, but he ended up being a little bit smaller. But I do like him. He's in that same range.
And that last guy for me, Tylan Wallace is befuddles me because I watched him and it seemed like he was making so many contested catches. I like the physicality, but then he goes out and runs like a 4.3. I'm thinking, why wasn't he more wide open? So what happened there?
Man, I am so torn on Tylan Wallace because when I watched the tape, he wasn't for me. And I've just seen so many guys value him in that kind of top 100 range. And I'm like, well, there's got to be something there that either I'm not seeing or maybe there's something more. Because I heard the leadership qualities, the football character, like he checks those boxes, but like when I watched the tape, I just didn't see it. And like I'm kind of shocked the same thing. It's like he comes to the pro day, and again, we talked about everybody running a 4.3, but like he didn't strike me at all as a 4.3 player on the field in pads. So I don't know if that's part of it, but I mean, I have him, I think, is number 14 on my wide receiver. So if you come around the third round and he's there, I mean, go for it if that's your flavor. But he's another guy I'd probably be like, I'll let somebody else pick him and go a different direction.
Right.
I gotcha. Yeah, well, I mean, I can see that. Go ahead, Jimmy.
No, I was just saying it's definitely going to be interesting. If you think about, like you said, Glenn, we were all trenches in this draft. And honestly, I would be elated if the Ravens walked away with that board that we just put up on the screen right there. I mean, it's exactly what we need. There's filling in for some age and then improving some positions at safety. We didn't talk about wide receiver. One of the things that I think that Glenn and I have kind of talked about is we're going to do another simulation where the Ravens, I mean, in this draft, it worked out that they didn't take one, but we're definitively not going to take a wide receiver because there's a growing rhetoric around here that we're good this year on wide receiver. Now we got Sammy. The numbers are what they are. We can only add maybe one more to the active roster, right?
Maybe one, and that's if you don't like Deion Kane and you don't like Benjamin Victor, who are both futures. So, yeah, not a whole lot of room in that receiver room. So I wouldn't be. I think it's kind of like you said, Jason. Either there's that guy that they love falls to them, or they don't, and then they take him, or they don't take one at all. And I think they invest in their young guys with these new coaches, and they hope to develop them and turn them into what Ravens fans hoped they would be when they were taken. So, yeah, that's going to be – but I wanted to ask you a little bit more about edge because we saw when we did our mock, it looked as if you didn't take one early, at least according to the board, on PFF, that you couldn't get a lot of value late at edge. What's your thought on the edge position as far as late round guys?
Late round guys. So, like, I think – this draft isn't that great at the top. I mean, I think there's solid guys, but you don't have that one player that's going to do.
There's no Chase Young or anything like that.
No Chase Young, no Bosa brother, none of these guys that would be in that running for a top 5 pick. That said, a lot of these guys you can poke holes in their game, but I mean, I think even in through the 3rd, 4th round, I think you can get a solid player who you can hope will pan out. But I mean, I have 20 some odd edge rushers that I think are very quality. And, I'd have to look at the numbers again of how many actually go in a draft. But I mean, I feel like it's pretty good. And there's a couple of guys late that could surprise you based on just being try hard guys and high motor guys and guys that get after the quarterback. And, that's one of the things we talked about Oweh not getting any production. And there's kind of this saying, like, if a guy sacks the quarterback in college, he can sack the quarterback in the pros. So he's proven to do that. And it's kind of these, it's almost like the Tom Brady argument for a quarterback. It was like, well, if you draft a guy in the 6th round, he could be Tom Brady. And I think people are looking at Oweh and maybe like a Joseph Osai there early and looking at these guys that didn't have these, outrageous sack numbers there at the top of the draft and thinking, oh, well, they could be Danielle Hunter and get 15 sacks a year or something like that because he was the same kind of guy. But we've also seen those kind of guys fail also with, like Arden, oddly enough, Arden Key out of LSU, who had a lot of hype early, and then he ended up being like a 4th round pick. And I'm sure there's other examples. I mean, studying 400 or 500 guys a year, I can't just pull them out the top of my head.
Well, you're doing a pretty good job of it.
But, even like you look at Rousseau, all of his I have him rated as a defensive lineman. I feel like he's more like a David Irving guy where he's gigantic, but I don't see him, coming around the corner and bending the edge or anything like that. He's a guy that all of his production came over the guards and working stunts and playing games there with the guys in the middle or just, plays that took so long to develop and, coverage sacks basically. That it wasn't like he was, speeding around the corner and just getting a guy before he even finished his drop back. So, I mean, didn't test very well either. Yeah, he didn't test very well. And, one of my first mock draft, I didn't have him in the 1st round. And I got a comment that was like, not having Rousseau in the 1st round is stupid. I was like, come back to me in a month and we'll see if that is or not. Yeah. Because I have him as a 1-2. Like I just the way the board fell, it didn't. But I don't think it's crazy at all to think that he doesn't go in the 1st round, despite the the crazy sack numbers for the 1 year.
And what about Jalen Phillips? Because I know he's got the concussion issues, but outside of that, I really liked what I saw from him.
Yeah, Jalen Phillips is probably the best, the most like physically and as well as the most polished pass rusher, but it is just those medicals. It is the history. You have to look and do the homework of, where he was at UCLA, and they basically made him like medically retire from playing football. And he ended up transferring to Miami. I don't know if it was just, because we see that everywhere. It's like one set of doctors are like, you're done. And another set of doctors are like, no, you're okay. I mean, well, I look at, we spoke about the Cowboys earlier, Jalen Smith. The Cowboys probably only picked him because their doctor did the surgery on his knee and said in a couple of years he'll be able to play football again. But if they didn't pick him in the second round, he might have not gotten picked at all. I mean, somebody may have took a flyer on him on day 3. They probably didn't need to pick him in the second round, but it turned out okay. I think they may be looking to move away from him after this year. But, I mean, you never know. It's just with Phillips, like if he went in the top 10 just based on talent, I could buy it. I don't know. I had him in my second mock to 11 to the Giants just based on the pro day. Because, I mean, a 6'4", 260 guy going 4'4" or whatever. And he definitely had the production to go with it, unlike Owe, who we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, to me, he's a perfect scheme fit for Baltimore. I mean, man, to see him get to 27, I don't think it's any chance, but I guess I can hope.
Now, I was going to ask you here, of course, we did a simulator, but in your mock, who did you have the Ravens taking in round 1 in your most recent one?
Round 1 and the most recent one was Landon Dickerson.
It was round 1. Wow. They would have given you an F for that one.
Oh, yeah, that would have been just a flat F, for the first pick. So that's why I was like, you can cheat the simulator a bit to get the better grades. But, I think what we did here tonight, I would be perfectly happy with that. And weighing it based on how I think the board's going to fall, I think it's pretty realistic outside of maybe Milton Williams there, at midway through the draft. I think he's a day 2 guy all the day.
That's awesome. Well, I love how competitive you get with it. We appreciate you coming on. Thanks for the time, man. Let folks know, and of course we'll plug it as well, but let folks know where they can find you.
Yeah, NFLDraftPlex.com is my website. Right now, I have all of my data up. So my board is up there, my top 100, my positional rankings. I have 2 mock drafts that I put out. Less of interest to the Baltimore Ravens fans. I do a Dallas Cowboys 7-round mock draft every year. But next week, I'm going to start working on my 7-round mock draft for the entire league. So all 259 picks. I'm going to be going and writing that up. And we'll see how it goes. It's one of those things I look forward to every year because you do all this work, and it's like, why lose it all just doing a first-round mock? So you got to do the 7-round. By the end of it, I never want to do it again. But
exhausted, right? Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thanks again, Jason. We appreciate your time. Had an absolute blast. Hope that our viewers enjoyed it as well. And have a great evening, man.
Hey, thanks, guys. It was a good time. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Yeah, man. Thanks. Yeah, that was fun, man. That was fun.
Absolutely.
That was exciting. I would not be upset at all to see these guys coming to Baltimore.
No, likewise. I tell you what, I really liked how. And look, when you got clout like Jason, you can do it. But how much confidence he has in his board in comparison to PFF. I love that, man. That was awesome. And look, if you want accuracy, you know where to go. DraftPlex, NFLDraftPlex.com, right? I mean, that's what you got to do. So,
and I love how he has the spreadsheets broke down on his website. It makes it really easy to see, how he ranks them, where he's expecting them to go. And it's just real simplified, on his website. So yeah, by all means, guys, go check it out. If you're in a pool and you want to win, there's only one place to go, and that's DraftPlex. So we appreciate him, and we hope you guys enjoyed it. But yeah, I mean, now, hopefully, once we do our deeper mock, maybe we can get at least some advice from Jason, because we want to make sure we're accurate, because I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he studies all these guys, because I've watched some tape on probably, not even close to where he's been. And it takes time. It takes time
and discipline.
That's right.
And something to snack on.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, man, I'm like a duck. I wake up in a new world every day, right? So, my goodness, to be able to sit down and do that, it's definitely impressive. And to not have things just go together, right, where it all looks exactly the same, and to pick up on detail and to pick up on intricacies, and then to look up their character and stuff like that. I thought the most ironic thing, the most ironic thing about this is I feel like I was rooting for the BYU guy. Like, I wanted.
How did that happen?
I wanted our guy Brady Christensen at that
I think you're
point.
rooting for some protection for Lamar is really
Yeah, that's what it
doing.
really is. Absolutely, man. And like you said, I think that both you and I think something's going to happen with Orlando, right?
Yeah, I think it's only a matter. I mean, look, I'm in favor of him staying on board and hopefully making one more run at things before he goes and chases his dream elsewhere. But I think there's a team that's going to step up and throw, match their wants, and they're going to end up taking giving us a couple picks, and we'll see what happens. But hope you guys enjoyed the show.
Yeah.
I know I had a blast. I'm sure I can speak for Jimmy in saying so. Thanks again to Jason Pruitt from DraftPlex. And we'll talk to you guys soon.
See ya.